Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin on Friday, September 18th, 2015 at about 8:15 p.m. I'm clearly in the car. I'm on the way to the Catskills with Addie in the back, and I have my new Note 5.
Hi, I'm Addie and I'm playing a game on my iPad.
She's on her iPad playing a game, and that ties right into my theme because this is my first video on my Note 5 in the car. I think my second actual video that I'll be publishing to YouTube. And I'm sticking with Android, even though Apple announced their second phablet form factor, iPhone 6, recently. And they also announced the Apple Stylus, or the Apple Pencil, with the with the iPad Pro Plus or whatever, I don't know. But it only works with that model iPad, and it doesn't come with the new iPhone 6. And I like that phablet form factor, and I particularly like that form factor with a very fine stylus. And anyone who's used the Note series phones knows that is one really great stylus. I mean, it feels like, the accuracy certainly of using a Wacom tablet, and maybe even better because it works right on the surface that you're drawing on, as opposed to some vicarious tablet that you have to imagine mapped onto the screen. I know they fit some Macs to actually let you use the stylus right on the screen. I think I've seen a few at TechServe in New York City, little Mac repair place that is kind of legendary in Macdom, and being able to go there is kind of one of the cool things about living in New York for me, as going to J&R was when it was still around. And I guess B&H and TechServe are the two last meccas of that type. So anyway, I diverge. I was on the Note 3 for longer than I thought I was going to be, because I was on that AT&T New Phone Every Year program, which I did not exercise because I wasn't done with the Note 3 by the time the 4 came along. I was just settling into that phone, so I kind of went with it, and then it turned out I almost paid down the phone entirely at this silly high rate because of the new Phone Every Year program. It's kind of like leasing. But I paid the last payments that I could keep the Note 3, and that becomes Addie's tablet with the stylus, her stylus tablet, and also the Android phone in her life, at this stage, because as you heard her say, she's on the iPad, but I want her to be multilingual even on mobile. So she has as her little laptop a Hewlett-Packard Stream 11, which is a $179 laptop at Walmart with Windows 10. It came with Windows 7 pre-installed, and I upgraded it to Windows 10. I think that was it, yeah. And of course, there's all our Macs all around the house that she gets to use. And then there's her iPad mini that helps her with ABC Mouse and some other educational stuff she does. And then, of course, there's the Raspberry Pi, and she's already using Scratch a little bit in the Raspberry Pi. Mostly running the pre-built Scratch apps like growing the flowers in the garden and drawing with a kaleidoscope pen. But she is certainly a multi-platform computing kid growing up. And I'm going to try to remain keeping her that way, because unlike me, I don't want her to have any of these insanely strong and ultimately unproductive vendor relationships, dependency reliance relationships. Yeah, Addie? Yeah, you're hearing some funny stuff. Your daddy loved a computer called the Amiga. The Commodore Amiga computer. It was kind of like what your iPad is to you, but back in Daddy's day. In fact, it was not until I was like 17 or 18 years old that the first computer came along that I really kind of fell in love with the way you love to use your iPad. And that was a pretty common thing back then. Computers were not things that people fell in love with unless you were like super geeky and you only liked using text. There were no pictures or sounds or graphics, certainly no touch screens, no styluses. And every time you wanted to use the computer, you had to turn it on and start it up, which took a while. And when I started, you had to load floppy disks in to get it going. In fact, my first computer, you had to load these old-fashioned cassette tapes that spun these little wheels. But things have gotten a lot better. And now everybody can have the same kind of relationship. Like, I get to play games. I get to learn things. I get to read my books. I get to watch my movies, all through this one device. Feeling that we kind of got with our Amiga computers 30 years ago. And since your daddy is 45 years old, no, I'm 45. I had my birthday. Oh yeah. I pull ahead of you by 1 year until your birthday comes up. On August 27th.
You're 5.
Yes, I'm 4'5", and you're 4. And you're going to become 5. Real soon. So anyway, I guess I was 15 when the Amiga came out, but I didn't get one for a few years. It wasn't until they'd been around for a while and they were used and one broke, and then I was able to get my hands on one that was broken that nobody wanted anymore because the money it cost to fix it was too much. It was more money than anyone wanted to put into it. It was $300 to get a new disk drive.
Did you buy it?
Yes, I bought it. And then I bought the $300 disk drive to put into it. And I bought it for $100, and then I put $300 into the disk drive. So for $400, I got a computer that other people had to pay $1,200 for, or $1,200. And computers were very special back in those days, especially ones that could do graphics and had mice and could do pictures and sounds and videos and animation. And I fell in love with that computer. The Amiga was my Amiga. You know what Amiga means, Addie? It's Spanish for friend, but it's the female form of the word. So a friend who's a girl. And that's how they named the computer. And from that, you can tell a lot about your daddy. I love the computer. I love the people who made the computer. And I got to meet a whole bunch of them. And I even got to work with some of them. You know why, Addie? I went to work at the company who made the Commodore Amiga. It was called Commodore. I can tell you some really cool things about Commodore if you want to know.
Okay.
It was founded by a Jewish guy. His name was Jack Tramiel. And he got out of Europe only just barely. He just barely escaped the man who your great-grandfather fought in the war. You remember those stories? Well, your great-grandfather, Bernie, who knew you.
I knew you.
Yeah, you remember your great-grandfather, Bernie? Well, he fought a really, 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 really bad guy named Hitler. Yeah, one of the worst guys who ever lived. Yeah. Hitler. Yeah. And your great-granddad, he fought him in the war. They call it the Great War, or World War II. And the man who founded my favorite computer company of all time just barely escaped Hitler.
Just barely.
Just barely.
Is that where he died?
No, he only just died a short while ago. In fact, he lived to a very old age. Yeah. He's a great man. One of the least recognized.
Hitler?
No. Hitler was a terrible man. Jack Tramiel was a great man, the man who escaped Hitler and founded the computer company called Commodore. You still with me, Addie? Okay. Oh, well, just following the story. He came here to invent computers. And he helped invent computers. He helped invent the kind of computers that people had in their homes. Because before that, they were such great, big, expensive things, they only had them in businesses. And Jack, with the help of a couple of guys named Bob, two different Bobs, and a guy named Al. Well, I'll have to check on their names. I'll update the comments on this video if I end up posting it. But Jack Tramiel, with the help of two Bobs and an Albert, just like your great-granddad on my side, Albert. But this man's name was, if I can get it right, Al Charpentier. All together, they created some of the first computers that were inexpensive enough, that were little enough money, that anybody could afford and have in their house. Doesn't that sound kind of special? I worked for that company. I never got to meet Jack, though. No, Jack Tramiel. Jack Tramiel.
You know his name?
Yeah, I know his name. He had a bunch of sons. Oh, I never met Jack Tramiel, but I know his name because he's one of my heroes. So I get to know all the people who are kind of important in what they call the history of computers, because that's one of Daddy's interests. So to make a long story short, I worked for that company. And a lot of who I am, you know that internal music we talked about? This is who we are, this is who I am. If you think that you can stop me, then you need to think again. Right, internal music. My internal music comes from the Commodore Amiga and the whole bunch of people that were behind it, how it was made, how I used it, and then how I missed it terribly until things started coming along that were cool enough to replace it in my heart. And you're being born into the world where just about everything you touch is as cool as a Commodore Amiga. So I don't need to guide you to the special stuff. Special stuff is all around you. Well, yes, certainly this car, the Jeep Wrangler. You're in one of the best cars ever made. One of the oldest traditions. This car helped fight the bad guys in the wars. Not this actual car, but this kind of car. It's a bad guy fighting car in the wars. And you're playing on an iPad. which is from that company named Apple that we talked about, who makes the finest computer and technology and electronics products, the best. But they're way too expensive, and they try and keep you from using anything else. That's why Daddy has Android and Windows in our house too, on other tablets and other phones. And it doesn't mean much to you today, but in probably about 10 more years, you're going to be way ahead of the other kids, because you're going to be able to move from thing to thing to thing, no problem. You're even going to be able to move to the old text computers.
I'm gonna move mountains when I'm older.
Yeah, you bet you are. Tell me about it. Yeah, you don't have to know for quite a long time. Only thing you got to do is try stuff. And then certain things that interest you, you stick with longer. Can you repeat that? Try stuff. And then stick with things you like a little bit longer. And the few things that you find that you love, do them. That's right. All right, that's my video. I think that's a good place to stop. Anything you want to say to the people out there in YouTube land?
Don't forget to subscribe.
There you have it.
Always say that.
Yeah. I never told her to do that. She just hears Daddy making videos. So, thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. And don't forget to subscribe.